Hi everybody, it's Miranda with Multiplicity Crafts, and today I'm taking part in the Wow Embossing Powder Hop, and this is part of the Craft Collabs hop that we are doing with a giveaway here on YouTube. Now the trio that I'm going to be using today is the Ancient Jewels trio, and you can see here the beautiful colors it comes with, and I will actually kind of swatch, for lack of a better term, these embossing powders for you, just to kind of stir through them so you can see. This one's a beautiful turquoise color, and you can see the little flecks of gold in there as well. This next one is a beautiful emerald color. Again, you can see it's got gold in there, and you kind of stir that, mix that up, and you can see how it will give you just the most beautiful, beautiful finish. Definitely the antique look if you like to make vintage scrapbook pages or cards or various projects. And this next color is a gorgeous ruby, and this one I love because ruby is actually my daughter's birthstone. So I have a special place in my heart for rubies. And again, this one's got the gold flecks mixed throughout. That gives you that beautiful antique vintage look. So for today's card, I'm going to be using some die cuts, and these are just little flowers. And I'm using some Tombow glue. Now this glue is actually repositionable if you dry it and then place it down. I don't have my heat gun hot, so don't worry, I'm not heat setting that. I'm just blasting it with a little bit of air before my heat tool's warmed up to help the drying process go a little bit quicker. So I'm going to just place that down, and that way it'll hold it in place like a temporary mask for me. I suppose I could have, ran these through on like a masking paper or something, but, you do what you do, right? So I'm going to go ahead and place this one down as well. I just have a little trio of the flowers because I have a trio of the embossing powder. I'm going in with my little sponge dauber. This is the finger dauber, in with a little bit of Versamark ink. Now, most of you probably already know, but for those of you who are not familiar, Versamark is a sticky kind of an ink, and it's clear, and so it's what your embossing powder is going to stick to. Now, I am kind of sacrificing this sponge dauber for this project because I don't know that it's going to be fit to use on ink blending after I've dipped it in this sticky ink. I suppose there's a way you could probably wash it, but, it's not that big a deal because I have other finger daubers as well. So I'm going to sprinkle this embossing powder most concentrated in the little shadows, I guess you could say, of the flower, and then I'm going to kind of make it more diffuse as the flower goes out on the petals, just to kind of give it a unique look. And I'm going to just brush away the excess and collect what I have left over and place it back into my jar. Now this is a good thing about embossing powder because it's virtually no waste at all. So these little jars will last you probably a good 20 to 30, maybe 35 years if you, do this method each time. I'm actually only kidding, but they will last you quite a long time. So you can see I get a beautiful sheen off of the embossing powder. It does definitely give the emerald look, but it also gives the gold sheen as well. So I think these are such unique colors. A lot of times the embossing powders are just one shade. Now that's fine, and I love that, but this blend with the gold and the color, I just think that's really, really neat. And I'm just in love with these 3 embossing powders that came in this Ancient Jewels trio. And so anyway, I'm going to do the same thing here on the ruby color, dusting it away. And I did get a little bit more than I bargained for there at the bottom. My hand was a little bit heavy-handed, let's say. And so I'm going to brush a little bit away with just a clean paintbrush, a dry paintbrush, obviously. And then I'm going to re-sprinkle as I wanted it to be originally. Use the heat tool, and you can see it melting into the paper there beautifully, and just like that, it gives me that gorgeous sheen of gold without being too overbearing on the gold, so you can still see the ruby as well. So you see how the light catches that so beautifully. Now I'm going to move on to this final flower, and I'm going to do the same process, and this one's going to be in that gorgeous turquoise color. So if you've been like on a vacation to a southwestern place or something, I just think it would be a cute scrapbook page if you could use this turquoise, because it reminds me so much of that southwestern look of turquoise jewelry. And so anyway, I'm going to go ahead and spread this on like I've been doing with the others, a little more concentrated toward the center of the flower, and then, more diffuse as we go out. I'm going to heat set that. And then once all of these are set in place, I think you'll see the color difference. They all look somewhat gold when the light hits them, and then whenever you angle them, then they retain their color. It's just like really, really cool. It's almost like an iridescent sort of a thing it's going on here. I really like that. So you can see when the light catches it, it's definitely got the gold sheen, but then when I angle it down, you notice definite color differences. So I kind of did 2 for the price of 1 here. I actually was embossing my flowers at the same time I'm designing my card. So you can see I'm pulling up these flowers, and you can use an adhesive eraser to get rid of the excess glue that might be left behind from your Tombow glue. But anyway, I'm just going to pull these flowers away, and you can see the beautiful little shadow or whatever you want to call it that it left. And then once I place that together, you see I made a 3D flower there for the corner. For the center of each flower, I'm adding a little flat back gemstone, and this will kind of make the whole look of the card be more cohesive and give some dimension. Now you could do 3-dimensional flowers on all 3, but I thought I would just mix it up a bit. I'm going to go in with a little bit of distress ink, and I'm going to make this card look a little bit more aged and vintage, simply because the look I'm going for is, the name of the trio is Ancient Jewels, right? So I want it to look kind of more aged rather than just, pristine and white. So I'm going to go in with some of this. Now, I also feel that if you're into steampunk or anything like that, this would also be a great set of embossing powders to use for that. As I'm finishing my distress inking, I do want to let you know this is part of a giveaway hop if you're watching in the year 2021, right? But even if you're not, these powders are great to purchase anytime for any season, any reason. And so I just wanted to let you know, though, if you are watching in 2021, that I will have all the information for the giveaway linked in my description box. I will also have the next participant in the hop linked below. Be sure to check out each one, because the more channels that you comment on, the more entries you will get. Now I'm going to go in to add a little bit of texture with my bubble wrap. This was just some that I got in an online order. It was just the packaging, and so I cut a little rectangular shape out of that, and I'm just dipping that directly into my distress ink, and I am just adding a little bit of texture. I'm doing this also to kind of fill in those blank areas so the card all pulls together into one cohesive look. Now you can see that I'm kind of doing what they call ghost stamping. In other words, stamping 2 and 3 times after the initial stamp. And that way it gives me some variation in the depth of color. I'm also going to go in with a white pigment ink and add some little white dots, and this will kind of knock back some of the darkness of that deep brown, as well as give me some variation. Now with this pigment ink, I could definitely use my embossing powder over it because it stays wet a lot longer than a dye ink. And I could technically go back over that with some embossing powder, but I decided just to leave it as is since I was pretty happy. So I'm going to mush, yes, that's a technical term, mush some ink onto a clear acrylic block. Now I'm going to spray this with a little bit of water and turn it into a watercolor. I'm just going to add some very simple painting onto the flowers. This is nothing Bob Ross level at all. This is totally doable, just something to take away that stark white look from the flowers and to kind of make them look like they belong on the card. So I'm going to do this first of all with the lighter shade of distress ink, and then I'm going to go in with my deeper shade, which I used just a moment ago to do my texture stamping with the bubble wrap. So this deepest shade is the ground espresso. I'm going to go in and mush that onto my acrylic block. Add a little bit of water, just a little spritz is fine, and then go in with my paintbrush. I didn't even clean the paintbrush, it's fine, it's so close in color, and go in and do the same on the other side of the flower petal. So once I added a stamp and a little bit of twine at the top, you can see that I have a finished card. I love the sheen of these embossing powders. Let me tell you, they are absolutely gorgeous, even more so in person, if you can believe it. And I used the sentiment "Choose Joy" because this card just seemed kind of whimsical and happy. I don't know. It's just a mixed media card, and anytime I do mixed media, it just brings me joy. So I thought that was a good stamp to use for this. Again, the trio I used was the Ancient Jewels trio. So if you want to see other beautiful Wow embossing powder trios, I would highly recommend that you go down to the description box and see the links below for the hop. Again, don't forget to leave me a comment so you can enter this drawing for a giveaway. Best of luck to you, and I will see you next time. Have a great day.